Hi Y3, I hope you're all well. So this is our last session on about rocks for this science lesson. So we're just going to do a quick recap of our previous learning. So we learned about 3 different types of rocks. So we learned about igneous, sedimentary and metamorphic. So igneous rock is rock that has been formed from either magma or lava, and then they come from volcanoes. And what happens once they are cooled down, so normally magma or lava is really hot, and over time it will cool down and turn into a solid and will turn into a rock like this, and we call this igneous rock. Then we have sedimentary. So sedimentary rocks are formed under the sea as a result of millions and millions of years worth of rock and bone buildup. And if you remember from last time when we were doing fossils, this is where fossils come from sedimentary rock. And then we have metamorphic. So metamorphic rocks are formed with the Earth's movement, and what happens that causes the rock to be deeply buried and squeezed, which causes the rock to have this really interesting pattern, because over millions and millions of years the rock has been pushed and it's been squeezed down to cause this pattern. Now we have had a look at different types of rock, another type of rock. Now all these rocks are naturally made. They're made over millions of years by them and made by nature, whereas there are rocks that are made by man. We call these anthropic rocks. Now these are rocks that are just like bricks or things that are built for houses or for roads, and these are man-made. Okay, we can change them, we can modify them, we can make them how we want them to be, and we call them anthropic rocks. So the last bit of learning that we did for science was about the fossilization process. So here we have our lovely little creature, our little dinosaur here, and our little sea creature. Now, unfortunately, what happens? The creature or animal dies either on land or on sea, and it gets covered by a layer of sediment or rock material or soil. And over time, it compacts and it turns into rock. So these poor creatures have died, and over the years, soil, rocks, debris, things like that have gone on top of it, and what has happened is slowly turned into rock. Then what happens is that because of the years, because of so many years will go by, the animal will only, or the creature will only just be bone. So again, the layers are building up and the creature now no longer looks like a dinosaur. All we have is the skeleton. Then over thousands and thousands of years, the bones will turn into a mold, okay? Will turn out the outline and will turn into rock, okay? And replace those bones into minerals, which is how we get the outline of the skeletons. And then what will happen? Erosion, do you remember that word? And weathering. So anything like the wind or the rain can affect the rocks and can slowly dissolve. Rain can even dissolve some types of rocks, and this is how they become exposed and how we can finally find them. Of course, there are people called archaeologists and paleontologists. Paleontologists are people who study dinosaurs, who also go out and look for fossils as well. So we are having some new learning today. So we're going to look at how soil is formed. Oh, actually, before I do that, I want to show you a quick video of the fossilization process. So just bear with me before we go into our new learning. So just bear with me.
Greetings, Immature, and I'm about to witness an extremely rare event, a fossil being made. Some animals many millions of years ago were buried quickly after their death in substances like sand, volcanic ash, or mud. Did you see that? Fantastic! Usually the soft parts like the muscles rot away, leaving the hard parts like the skeleton behind. Then, over time, more layers of sediment cover the remains. That's why fossils are only found in sedimentary rocks. Now, This guy's been under a whole lot of pressure, and in that time the sediment around the bone has compacted to form rock. Water has seeped into the bone and dissolved it completely. Minerals in the water are then deposited inside this mold, and ta-da! A fossil is made. Then, over millions of years, the rock rises to the surface and is worn away by erosion. Man, I dig fossils.
Okay, so that's a quick whistle-stop tour about how fossils are made. So now going on to our learning today, we're going to look at how soils are made. So I can state that soil is composed of different things, and I can describe the full process of soil formation. So you have got some questions here. So what are the 4 things that soil is made up from? Write them correctly. You do need to make sure that you are spelling them correctly, because if you misspell them, it will say that your answer is wrong. So make sure that if you need to pause the video and to type in the correct answer. You've got a true or false question too. So soil has water in it. Well, we'll find out that in a minute. What is humus? Again, we'll find that out. Which is not a layer of soil, sorry. And what are the 4 main processes involved in soil formation? Write them correctly. So again, if you need to pause to see how it's spelled correctly, do so. So again, these questions will be put throughout the lesson, so you'll be able to answer them. And of course, if you need to pause or have a look back at the video, do so. So my first question is, what is soil? What's it made out of? What do you think soil could be made out of? Okay, so we're going to show you a quick video of what it's made out of. So just bear with me while I try and share this. Say goodbye to you. And then I've got the next one here.
Greetings, amateur, and I have something incredible to show you. Soil. Soil is the thin layer of lovely muddy stuff that covers the land. It's vital to all living things. Oh, lovely. It's made from particles of rocks and humus, which is decaying bits of plants and animals broken down by microorganisms. And this is all mixed together by worms and bugs over many years. Hello there. Now, different soils have different properties. Sandy soils have large particles. Water drains through them easily, making them dry. But clay soils, they have much smaller particles and get muddy when wet. Apparently, people pay good money for this.
Okay, so he went a bit quick there. So we'll go through it really quickly. So soil is everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere, and it's really important because we use it for our food, we use it to grow things, and for helping us build houses and things like that. So it's made out of 4 things. So out of air, so things like gases, like oxygen that we breathe, nitrogen, they're all types of gases. Even though we can't see it in the soil, it is in there. As well as air, there is also water. Now, we can't see the water, but it's tiny, tiny particles that are inside of the soil that's also made up of it. And then we have minerals, okay? That basically means that it's broken down rock. Soil is rocks, it was once rock, okay? And what's happened is that the rock has been broken down over hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands and thousands of years, and it has become soil. So anytime you see soil, you need to remember that once upon a time, it was rock. And then inside of it as well, we have organic matter. So that's anything that could be like living things, so like worms or bacteria, animals, or things that have died there. Okay, so maybe animals that have been hunted near it as well. So in soil, there's about 25% of air and 25% of water. 47% of soil is mostly made up of mineral, so basically of old rock. And then 3% of it, a tiny, tiny little bit of it, is made up of living and dead things that have once been there. So this might have answers 2 of your questions on your quiz. So make sure that you have a look at it. So I'm also going to show you another video of the formation of soil. So just bear with me.
Unless you spend a lot of time underground like we do, you might not think very often about dirt. But dirt is awesome. It's everywhere. And just about every living thing on Earth depends on it, from the plants that grow in it, to the animals that eat the plants, to the animals that eat those animals. That's why we're really glad that one of our viewers, 4-year-old Caleb from Mississippi, wrote to ask us, what is dirt? Great question. First of all, the stuff that fills our flower pots and baseball fields may just be dirt to us, but scientists have a different name for it. They call the top layer that covers most of the land soil. So what is soil? Well, it's a mixture of things. How soil looks and feels depends on where you are. So some very dry places have a lot of gritty sand in the soil, while soil in other parts of the world might have hard rocks, soft clay, or even pieces of seashell in it. Usually, though, soil is made of 4 main things. Mostly, soil is made up of minerals. Minerals are hard, stony substances that form things like rocks, sand, and clay. The next big part of soil is water. That's right, even if a clump of dirt doesn't seem like mud to you, it actually has water in it. All living things need water to survive, and soil does a great job of holding on to water for plants, animals, and other things that live in it. And you know what else is in the soil that you probably can't tell is there? Air. Just like water, air in the soil is important because living things need air too. It fills the spaces between all those little bits of minerals, water, and other parts of the soil. And the beauty of it is, the animals that live in the soil actually help more water and air get inside it. Creatures like worms and insects and even small mammals like moles and mice dig tunnels down in the dirt. Those tunnels let air and water trickle in and flow around so that even deep down, the soil has what living things need to make a nice home there. And this, my friends, brings us to probably the most important part of soil. In fact, it's some of the most important stuff on Earth. Scientists call it organic matter. Organic matter includes anything that's alive, like those worms and insects, but also parts of plants and even living things that we can't even see, like bacteria. Plus, organic matter also includes things that used to be alive, like dead plants and animals. After those things die, other living things like fungi, bacteria, insects, and worms eat what's left of those plants and animals and break them down into very small pieces. This broken down material puts nutrients back into the soil, and plants then use those nutrients to grow. So soil is where plants get their food. Scientists call this special nutrient-rich part of the soil by its own name, humus. Humus is what gives soil its dark brown color, and it even sometimes contains special bacteria that make soil smell, well, dirty. Now, all of these things are mixed together to make soil, but the mixture isn't always the same. Scientists have found that soil has many layers to it. The top layer is all made up of organic matter, with lots of that good, useful humus. Beneath that is the layer that we often call topsoil. Topsoil is made mostly of humus, with a little bit of minerals sprinkled in. This layer is where seeds start to grow. As you go further down away from the surface, you find that the deeper layers of soil contain more minerals than humus. And once you get through the bottom layer, you run into a layer of solid rock. So now you have the dirt on soil, and you know it's made up of minerals, water, air, and organic matter. Thank you for asking, Caleb.
Okay, so she's also gone on to the next part of our learning. So, as you might have heard her say, that our top layer of Earth is made up of 3 different things. So we've got topsoil, and again, if you heard what she's saying, most of it is made of humus, which is basically like animals or material that is from like animals and things like that. Then what you're going to have is subsoil. So that's a bit where it goes further down and it's a little bit harder, it's a little bit more rockier. And then we have the bedrock, which is mostly of rock. So the question here is, which is not a layer of soil? So topsoil, subsoil, middle soil, or bedrock? Okay, so here we now have the 4 processes involved in soil formation. So we've got additions, losses, translocations, and transformations. Now, these are the things that help make soil. So let's move on to our additions. So additions are things like rainfall that is added from, when it's raining, dust from minerals, animal waste. So things like maybe when an animal dies, that animal is there in the soil and gives it additions to it. Decaying plants and animals add matter to it. Humans also add fertilizer. Now, fertilizer will be something like to help our plants grow. So if you think about your vegetables that you eat or your fruit, we add fertilizers into them to help them grow, to make them bigger. And sometimes they're made out of chemicals. Okay, they're chemicals that we can eat and that are okay for us to consume, but just making sure that we wash all our plants and all our vegetables before we eat them. We also have losses. So this could be evaporation, so water evaporation. So think about whenever you make a cup of tea at home, when you put the water in it and you click on the kettle, when it starts to get hot, gas comes out of it or steam comes out of it. So what's happened is that some of that water in that kettle has got really, really hot and has evaporated and turned into a gas. We also have soil particles that are washed away by storms, and then organic matter. And then we have nutrients and minerals that are taken by plants, because remember, with plants, they need to have nutrients in order to grow. We then have translocation. So this is the movement of soil. Okay, and now you might think, well, soil can't move, but actually, it sort of can. So gravity pulls the water down from top to bottom. So you think about when you're watering plants and things like that, the water has to seep through the soil. And what will happen? Tiny fragments of soil will start to go further and further down into the layers of soil. Then what will happen as well? Evaporating water. So remember that when that water turns into a gas, it draws the minerals up from the bottom to the top. So think about when it gets really, really hot and that soil starts to get a bit like grainy. And it's not as muddy, is it? And then of course animals help move soil as well. You think about when you see an animal walking, it also picks up dirt. And again, when you're walking around, you are helping move you're helping the location, moving the soil from one place to another. And then we have transformations. So transformations occur when something changes into something else. So for example, we have the humerus. So remember that humerus is when something has died or something has decomposed. So things like animals or plants or leaves that have helped turn into soil. And weathering, such as hard rocks eroding, that means falling away, and turning them into smaller and smaller pieces. Okay, so have a go at answering those questions that are on your Teams app. And this is our last rock session and hopefully our last science lesson before we are back at school on the 8th of March. So I will see you again on Friday and I hope you have a nice day. Bye now.